A kiss? No, I'm sorry. I don't think so.
Oh, no, please, no, baby, no.
Oh, not a good idea. Not now.
No, bad time.
Fight morning breath with Scope. Scope has 2 powerful ingredients that kill 90% of the bacteria that cause morning breath.
Your kiss is ready. Pucker up.
Right on the kisser.
Come on.
Kiss morning breath goodbye with Scope.
Give me that kiss.
Take the Olive Garden pasta tour of Italy this fall. An exciting journey through delicious new pasta dishes from all over Italy. Visit Florence and enjoy tempting pasta Florentine. See Venice and delight in luscious shrimp Veronese. And in Palermo, take in delectable chicken and sausage pepperonata. Make your plans now for the Olive Garden pasta tour of Italy. But move fast. A tour this affordable won't last forever.
Hi, I'm Connie Shield, real estate broker.
I'm Joy Holmquist, real estate agent.
As professionals, we have used American Termite for years, and we recommend them to all of our home buyers.
Your home is your largest single investment, and American Termite has the protection you need.
Only American Termite guarantees their inspection in writing, free for 1 year.
Ask your lender or realtor about a written guarantee.
For all your termite needs, call American Termite, the company professionals use.
This is WHO TV 13 Des Moines.
Good morning. The public ordeals of Clarence Thomas are over. He survived his final Senate test by the closest winning margin in the history of Supreme Court nominees. Literally and judicially, he's now set for life. Thanking family and friends and obviously relieved, Thomas expressed hope that the bitterness of his confirmation battle be put behind him. He called for the healing process to begin today, Wednesday, October the 16th, 1991.
From NBC News, this is a special edition of Today with Bryant, Gumbel, and Catherine Couric, reporting this morning from Washington, D.C.
Good morning and welcome to Today on a Tuesday morning, our second straight day of coming to you from the nation's capital and cutting down on Katie's commuting fares.
It's been a long week and it's only Wednesday.
You could get used to this, couldn't you?
Yeah, I could, actually.
We should explain that Joe Garagiola is not with us because he's in Pittsburgh, where he is going to be throwing out the first ball at the start of Game 6, a high honor for our pal.
Good for Joe.
Yeah, it is. Meanwhile, you and I continue to work. We're going to look to the Thomas nomination winners and losers. Big winner is obviously Clarence Thomas. Losers, perhaps, the women's movement?
Perhaps, and in fact, in this half hour, we're going to talk about the White House strategy, what George Bush may do to attract some of the women who might have been alienated by this ordeal. And we're also going to be talking later in the show to a college senior about why so few young women want to be referred to as feminists these days.
All righty. Let's get to the news of the Thomas nomination. As we've noted, the Senate vote on Clarence Thomas was the closest successful confirmation vote in Supreme Court history, with the nominee gaining a majority by just 2 votes. The final count was 52 to 48. The only court vote to come so close to that was in '86 in this century, when 33 senators opposed the elevation of William Rehnquist to the position of Chief Justice. For more on the vote, let's go up to Capitol Hill. Correspondent Henry Champ. Henry, good morning.
Good morning, Brian. After 107 days, the toughest ordeal ever faced by a Supreme Court nominee is now over.
I think that no matter how difficult or how painful the process has been, that there's a time, this is a time for healing in our country.
But as Thomas walked back to his house, that healing process had not yet started. Many Democrats still arguing about the nominee's qualifications.
All, I do not believe that the President of the United States is acting in order to build a great U.S. Supreme Court.
So the President has sought candidates who agree with him on abortion, but whose views are not known, or who will deny having a view.
However, it was these 11 Democrats whose votes gave Thomas victory. They argued sexual harassment charges by Anita Hill were never proved, and Thomas is indeed qualified. Among the first cases Thomas will rule on, the question whether school prayer can be used during graduation exercises, and a pornography case deciding whether customers can be prosecuted.
The Senate and President will argue the process must change, and there will be an investigation to find out who leaked Anita Hill's charges to the media. But, Bryant, as long as there are different political parties controlling the White House and the Senate, any real reform is unlikely.
Henry, you heard Katie and I talking about winners and losers. If a big winner is Clarence Thomas and one of the losers is the feminist movement, which Katie's going to get to later, how big a loser is the Senate in this?
Oh, I think the Senate is a big loser. Again, we've harped on this all week, but the polls show that 60 to 65% of the people didn't like the process. And there was no question, as affiliates sent in material overnight, and I was watching it coming in, that seemed to be pretty representative right across the country, but most particularly in the South.
All right, Henry, thanks very much. A relieved President Bush immediately congratulated Clarence Thomas upon his confirmation. The congratulations followed a morning of some heavy lobbying from the White House. This morning, Jim Miklaszewski is on the North Lawn there with more. Jim, good morning.
Good morning, Bryant. Here at the White House, relief and exhaustion, I think, is the way you could describe the mood. But they're also feeling pretty good here, not only about the fact that Thomas won the nomination, but, you know, the Democrats over the past decade have had a propensity for, as a group, for shooting themselves in the foot. Well, Republican strategists think in this one they shot themselves in both feet. First of all, after what many Americans considered an ugly spectacle, President Bush will use that to further point to Congress as everything that's wrong with the government. He's done it before, and he'll do it again. But there's another issue here that Republican strategists point to, and that's the fact that because Thomas, in the closing minutes of this debate, was able to raise the racist issue, there's some thought in the Republican camp that perhaps the blacks have become further split off from white liberals in a way that not even President Bush could have calculated when he nominated Thomas.
Real quick, Mick, absent of broadening the gender gap, what's the White House biggest fear in terms of political fallout on this one?
I think at this point they have no fears in terms of fallout.
All right, Jim Miklaszewski at the White House, thank you. For almost a week now, the nation has, of course, been caught up in the drama surrounding the Thomas nomination. So when it was done, there was strong reaction from supporters and opponents alike. NBC's Robert Hager has more on that. He's in our newsroom this morning. Bob, good morning.
Good morning, Bryant. A collective sigh of relief from the nation this morning. The drama's finally played itself out. Many are pleased at the outcome, some are not, but all seem glad that it's over. In rural Georgia, jubilation from Thomas's mother, Leola, and friends.
I have the victory!
In Washington, another celebration by Thomas supporters.
It's been a real roller coaster.
I'm just glad he got on.
I really couldn't be happier.
At University of Oklahoma Law, where Anita Hill teaches a different view.
I believe that even though people may not believe her, I believe they respect her for having the guts to bring it out.
American University professor Joel Paul, who had corroborated Hill's testimony.
I'm disappointed that majority of the Senate doesn't agree with my judgment about whether she's telling the truth or not. But I hope and I believe that we've raised the consciousness of the country about the issue of sexual harassment.
J.C. Alvarez, who had testified on behalf of Thomas.
But I'm glad it's over. I really am, because I hurt for both of them. I really do. I feel sad for both of them.
But sadness is not the predominant sentiment, more a sense that right or wrong, this chapter in history is over now, and it's time to get on with the business of the court shortly. Bryant?
All right, Bob, thanks so very much. It's 7:07, time for us to get on the business the rest of the day's
I think everybody's glad it's over, no matter what they think.
Let's go on up to Faith Daniels. She's up in New York. Faith, good morning.
Good morning, Bryant and Katie. Good morning, everyone. Secretary of State Baker's peace mission is winding down. Today, he moves on to Israel after visits to Egypt, Jordan, and Syria that left lots of problems unsolved. Demonstrators have been gathering to greet America's top diplomat. They're protesting U.S. opposition to Israeli settlements in occupied territories. They're calling the proposed regional peace conference a sellout. There's apparently been no progress toward deciding who would represent the Palestinians at the peace table. The government of Iraq is again threatening to shoot down helicopters carrying United Nations weapons inspection teams. Officials say the helicopters are using the airspace that was violated by Israeli warplanes earlier this month. A French scientist has won the 1991 Nobel Prize for Physics. Pierre-Gilles Dujon was honored for his work on polymer physics and liquid crystals. Senate sponsors of the unemployment bill will push President Bush, that he vetoed last Friday, are trying to round up the 67 votes they need to override A vote is scheduled for later today. The bill would nearly double the length of time that jobless Americans are eligible for benefits. On the foreign financial markets today, stock prices were slightly higher at the close of trading in Tokyo, and the London exchange opened with a small gain. Citicorp has suspended its dividends after reporting the second worst quarterly losses in its history. The nation's biggest bank blamed bad loans in the recession for its $885 million loss during the last quarter. In Pittsburgh tonight, the Pirates try to lock up the National League pennant at home. They lead the Atlanta Braves 3-2 in their best-of-7 series. First game winner Doug Drabeck starts for Pittsburgh tonight against Atlanta's Steve Avery. Braves fans are getting some bad reviews from Native Americans because of cheering techniques like the tomahawk chop. If the Braves pull off a win and make it to the series, community leaders in Minnesota are threatening to demonstrate at Saturday's World Series opener. Coming up on 7:09 now, and time to head back to Washington. Bryant, Katie?
Isn't that nice about Joe throwing up the first ball tonight?
I think that's terrific. Nobody deserves it better. He's a class act.
He's thrilled about it. He really told me last week about it. He's absolutely excited.
Is he getting the old eye ready again, the old arm in shape?
It's the arm in shape he's worried about.
Little Bengay, little Maalox surgical stocking.
Nah, Willard.
Hey, listen, down in your dad's part of the country, down in Moultrie, Georgia yesterday.
Near Dublin.
Down near Dublin, Georgia. We had the best time, and everybody was so sweet and nice. And I just want to say, I hope, with all respect to Pittsburgh, I hope the Atlanta gets a little shot. Is it today or tomorrow?
Tonight.
Thank you. Close. This football has significance. Saturday football, you watch your college games on your favorite TV station. PBS has done something that really is very nice. This, I think, is the first time they've ever done it. They're taking you all day Saturday on college tours, campuses all over the country. They show you the colleges, what they cost.
Oh, that's great.
Isn't that a neat?
Better than Barron's. Isn't that the guide you always looked at when you were in high school? Barron's?
Yeah.
Guide to colleges?
Yeah, it's the same type of thing, but it'll be on television, and they'll show you the campuses, and it happens this Saturday on your PBS station, so check it out. I throw the ball. Let's see if I can throw the ball. Welcome back, by the way. I thought you'd been deep sexed. I'm glad to hear that's not true. Oh, you didn't hear. Rough business, this show business. Happy birthday this morning for all of our birthday fans. Take a look from our friends at Hallmark. This is Dominica Ferrero, Turtle Creek, Pennsylvania. Pretty as a picture. And Dominica, hope I pronounced that correctly, she is 102 years old today, and she loves Bryant Gumbel and the Today Show, and she thinks that Katie Couric is the cat's pajamas. I never understood that statement. We told you in Moultrie, Georgia yesterday about Fabian. Fabian is now a tropical storm. Winds are about 55 miles an hour, moving towards the northeast, not too far, about 100 miles from Freeport in the Bahamas. No real threat to the coast of Florida. However, there will be a dusting of rain there where they don't need any rain today. And if you are traveling, Boston, New York, Philadelphia, San Diego, and Los Angeles, look for some weather conditions to develop later on in the day. Denver, 90 degrees. By contrast, 29 degrees in Chicago. So obviously, there's quite a contrast in temperature there. Again, the coast is clear. That's my old, remember that?
Carol Burnett.
I'm buying stock with this here. Anyway, check it out. The West Coast is dynamite. A little fog this morning in L.A. Now, here's what's happening in your world, even as we speak.
Well, it's fall, but it's almost summer-like weather-wise outside. Mostly sunny today, high of 70 degrees. Then for tonight, 49. Quick look at tomorrow's forecast, up to 78 by tomorrow.
That's it. That's all. Now, here's Brian.
Thanks. 7:11 now, and on Close-Up this morning, the Supreme Court edition of Clarence Thomas. Though he won't be sworn in until Monday, debates are already begun on how what he's been through may affect him and how he may affect a court that was already tipped to the right. With an eye to both questions, we welcome A.E. Dick Howard, professor of constitutional law at the University of Virginia, and Professor Herman Schwartz, constitutional law expert at American University. Gentlemen, good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
Let's deal with Judge Thomas first. How's what he'd been through likely to affect him?
Well, here's a judge who's gone through one of the great firestorms of confirmation history. He will certainly come to the court bruised by the process, but I think once he arrives, he will find a very collegial place. The 8 justices, all of whom you can bet watch these hearings the way the rest of us did, will lay aside whatever conclusions they may have reached. I think they'll welcome him into the court, and I think these wounds will heal pretty quickly.
What about his effectiveness as a jurist? I mean, is it likely to harden his attitudes towards those of what he saw as a left-wing conspiracy, or perhaps deepen his sympathy for victims?
Well, there'll be no one on the court who's had more occasion to think about 2 issues, privacy and sexual harassment. There's no doubt about that. But there will be a question of whether he can move from the world of politics, the rough and tumble world, into the more reflective world of the court. It's a very different place.
How do you see it changing him, Professor?
I don't think one can possibly know. I mean, history and our own experience is full of people who react one way or the other to the same experience. He may come out of it bitter, angry, whether he wants to or not. There's a short fuse in the man that exploded, and we saw that under provocation. And he may come out quite different. Some people with his background come out very sympathetic to people on welfare and to poor people. Some people with his background have come out wanting to get away from it. I think at this stage, we really don't know, and if from time to time may depend on how he feels when he woke up in the morning.
Interesting. You said we saw that he had a short fuse. What else did you see that revealed something about his judicial temperament?
Well, I was deeply troubled by the reference to racism and to a high-tech lynching. These words are so loaded that they set off charges and they respond to particular things in the black community, especially for someone who has made a practice of condemning those who resort to racism.
But you don't think that was a political card he was playing, plain and simple?
I think in his position, I think the emotion was very real. After all, he sees slipping away from him perhaps the greatest prize that an American lawyer can have, and under dreadful circumstances, with a dreadful charge.
I said the court was already of a conservative bent, but in his adherence to what we call the natural rights theory, is Judge Thomas a different kind of conservative than the court already has?
There are really two kinds of conservatives on the present court. There are those who are more traditional conservatives. I think Sandra Day O'Connor may be of that particular stripe. And there are the movement conservatives, those who come from the new right movement in politics, such as Antonin Scalia. My guess would be that given Thomas's background, his exposure, the kinds of paths he's taken to this point, that he would be more likely to find himself comfortable with the more ideological conservatives on the court. Now, obviously, conservatism is a very broad movement. There is no one particular place you necessarily find yourself, but I would have thought that given what he's had to say in public life, the kinds of issues he's dealt with, that he might well be a natural ally of Scalia and Rehnquist on the court.
Does he figure to take this court farther and faster to the right than it would have without him?
He might in some areas, not in others. I mean, I think part of the problem with trying to speculate about this is that different areas produce different results. I think in abortion, I think the likelihood is very high that we will see the end of Roe against Wade, whereas if Justice Marshall were there, I don't think that would have happened. In some areas, such as the First Amendment, where we know almost speech, press, where we know almost nothing of his views, it's not at all clear.
Quick final question, I'm going to have to limit you both to about 10 seconds only. What say to the idea that given the amount of newcomers on the bench and given the political ideologies involved, that this is a court of mediocrity?
No, it's a court, I think, with some mediocre people on it, but I wouldn't characterize the court as a court of mediocrity.
I'd say among the courts of American history, it's a court of pretty average competence. What it doesn't seem to have are the giants who cast shadows, the Felix Frankfurters and the Hugo Blacks, but they're perfectly competent people.
Professor Howard, thank you. Professor Schwartz, thank you very much. Thank you. We're coming up on 7:17, and we're back in a moment in Washington. This is Today on NBC.
The ill effects and the losses are going to be suffered by members of Congress, the United States Senate, and the House.
We had big plans for our Florida vacation, but I needed a rental car that wouldn't cramp our style. Suddenly, everything fell into place.
Dollar Rent-A-Car is right on the airport, right on the money. Look for these special low rates in Florida. Great selection, unlimited mileage.
Come here often?
Call Dollar at 1-800-800-4000.
We're 5,000 feet above the city with the Des Moines skydivers to find out if a Robin's Nest waitress can serve today's special to a businessman while free-falling at 125 miles an hour. No. But she can do it in the pleasant surroundings of Robin's Nest restaurant, even if you should drop in unexpectedly.
This week, all the crab you can eat for just $12.95 at Robin's Nest.
Before they could walk, they wanted to dance. Before they could talk, they wanted to sing. But it took a lot of heart and desire to make it on a chorus line. Now this Broadway legend is back and on tour. But if you want tickets, get to the box office early and get out your Visa card. Because this show won't be in town long, and it won't take American Express. Visa, it's everywhere you want to be.
Live at the Des Moines Civic Center for 3 days only, November 8th through 10th. Call 243-1888 to charge your tickets today.
December 1990. News Center 13's Scott Pope is on special assignment inside Baghdad, bringing you first-hand reports as America's hostages are set free. May 1991. News Center 13's John Bachman is granted an exclusive one-on-one interview with Ronald Reagan as he reflects on his life in Des Moines and his years as president. November 1991. It's Kim Kerrigan's turn. Stay tuned, Central Iowa, for another News Center 13 exclusive.
Tuesday's Senate vote was a bittersweet victory for the White House. Even though George Bush prevailed in this battle, he may have opened a Pandora's box regarding women's rights. NBC News correspondent Jim Miklaszewski is at the White House with more on that. Jim?
Katie, even before Thomas was confirmed, the Democrats had shifted the debate to what many say was the real issue in this political battle: abortion.
With electoral policy.
Senate Majority Leader George Mitchell didn't even wait for the final vote before he threw down the gauntlet.
A woman came up to me and said with great emotion, "Please vote against Judge Thomas, because if he's confirmed, the right of choice will be lost." I told her that the right of choice was lost when George Bush was elected president.
Administration officials say President Bush was outraged by the remark. But the White House does fear that a backlash from women voters could throw the gender gap into relapse. In the past 3 years, President Bush has all but closed the gap. In recent polls, his approval rating among women has been neck and neck with men. But the Thomas nomination has opened old wounds over abortion. And the charge of sexual harassment added fuel to the political fires. And that could burn the president.
It's the harassment that they face on the street, on the job, in school. And that is a tie that will be hung around the neck of George Bush.
Pro-choice Republicans predict the damage could extend well beyond the White House.
Well, I think the party's lost. The Republican Party is lost, because I think the ill effects and the losses are going to be suffered by members of Congress, the United States Senate, and the House.
Now that Thomas has been confirmed, the thought that the Supreme Court could overturn Roe v. Wade next year gives Republican strategists nightmares. Political analysts say they should worry.
That would be like throwing a bomb in the middle of presidential politics. It will create a firestorm of controversy, emotionalism, and protest. That's the last thing you want when you're the incumbent president running for re-election.
Even if the Supreme Court puts off a Roe decision until after the elections, the president's got other problems with women. Bush is blocking a civil rights bill that includes a provision for damages for women who are sexually harassed at work. And he opposes the family leave bill, which would especially benefit working women. It's got women energized, and not only against George Bush.
We weren't born Democrat, we weren't born Republican, and we weren't born yesterday. And we're going to organize independent of what party candidates are for candidates who are leaders in women's rights, and we're going to abandon candidates, whatever their party, who have not supported us.
But President Bush's overall ratings remain high, and if the economy firms up, officials here predict that this issue alone, no matter how volatile, no matter how emotional, will not keep Bush from re-election. Katie.
Thank you, Jim. And we're back in a moment with more of a special edition of Today after these messages.